Teacher pay. It's the subject that won't go away in North Carolina. That's the opening line of a recent John Locke Foundation research brief authored by Dr. Bob Luebke. He is senior fellow at the Center for Effective Education. And Bob, you really took a look back at how teacher pay has changed in North Carolina over the last decade, and not just teacher pay, but also teacher compensation. We're going to get to the compensation piece in just a bit. But first, one of your key points is that teacher pay overall has improved significantly over the past decade.
Yeah, Mitch, I thought it was time for kind of a look back and a historical perspective. Every year in spring, we go into hyperventilation about teacher pay and the results of an NNEA survey, and we focus excessively on one year. And I thought it was good to take kind of a historical perspective and see what's happened over the last decade. And overall, the news is good.
Now let's talk about, you mentioned that the thing that prompts this is an annual survey that comes out from the NEA, the National Education Association, the teachers union. You and your colleague Terry Stoops have looked at this report and said it has some flaws. What are some of the things that are problems with this NEA report?
Well, there are several. A couple of the major ones are that it does not include any it doesn't take account differences in cost of living from different areas in the country. For example, obviously the cost of living in Manhattan is going to be higher than what it is, in rural North Carolina, there are going to be differences from, Seattle to rural Arkansas, and none of that is taken into consideration. We're just looking at one number, and that's a significant shortcoming because those differences in the cost of living really matter. They reflect different labor pools, but this survey totally ignores that. Then the other one of the other shortcomings is that the study really does not look at who we really compete with in the education labor pool, which realistically is our surrounding states. Virginia, South Carolina, Tennessee, Georgia. And that's really our competitive labor pool. And really more of an emphasis needs to be placed on how we're faring against them with regards to teacher pay and, other benefits.
Speaking of benefits, this report also does not incorporate the benefits, and that's an issue that we're going to turn back to in just a bit because it's important. But despite the shortcomings, North Carolina has improved in this ranking over the past decade, hasn't it?
That's right, Mitch. I mean, if we actually look at how NEA has set up the study, and we agree to use basically the rubrics that they set out, North Carolina's standing has improved relative to the national standing, as well as how we're doing against our peers, i.e. states in the Southeast. Initially, I looked at the last 10 years, and we've improved probably about seven spaces as far as rankings. In the early part, in 2011, we were like 41st in rankings. 2021, we moved up to 34th. Now, that wasn't a straight line. There were some years in there where we dropped as far down to 34th, and then we went as high as the 31st. But the last couple of years with basically vetoes in the last two budgets by Governor Cooper of proposed teacher raises, North Carolina has actually lost a little ground relative to other states. So that's, we've kind of plateaued there. Then with regards to our actual rankings relative to, say, Southeast states, we've actually done very well. We were as low as 11th out of 12 states in the Southeast. In the last couple of years, we've been number 2. So we've improved significantly along those lines.
And you mentioned that the plateauing has taken effect, not because anyone has had less concern about teachers, but it's because of the political fight between the legislature and the governor over the budget.
That's correct. And the veto has been put forth by a governor who has repeatedly said his support for teachers. And evidently he thinks he has thought that a 0% raise is better than the proposed 3.9%, that Republicans put forward.
Let's talk about one more big piece of your research brief, which has the title Teacher Pay, a Look at the Last Decade. And that is the fact that while teacher pay has gone up, one piece that's never discussed is the huge increase in teacher benefits. Talk a little bit about that, if you will.
Yeah, Mitch, that's the other real shortcoming. The third shortcoming of the current NEA salary rankings is that it doesn't include benefits. And everyone knows that when you hire a teacher, you not only have the costs associated with salaries, but you also have the costs associated with benefits. So what you're really looking at is compensation, salary plus benefits. And if you look at how North Carolina has fared for the last 10 years, the real increases that really need to be, that catch your eye, are with regards to benefits. If you look at what happened like in 2011, if you actually look at the average salary, which was about $46,700, if you incorporate the value of benefits, which we define as health insurance, retirement insurance, and Social Security, that's about $13,000. So the total compensation in 2011 was about $60,000. Fast forward to 2021, and with the average salary increasing and you take into account increases in those benefits that I mentioned before, the total compensation has actually increased to about $76,000. So that's dramatic. I mean, those increases primarily, most of those increases have been driven by dramatic increases in the cost of retirement benefits, which have almost doubled in the past 10 years.
In fact, some very interesting numbers to point out in your report. The average cost of benefits over that past decade has gone up by 66%, and the cost of benefits as a percentage of the salary has increased from a little bit less than 29% to now almost 41%. You make the point that if people are interested in raising teacher salaries, they're going to have to do something about the cost of these benefits too.
That's right. That's really the topic that's been missing from this whole discussion. And it's conspicuous by its absence. And really, if we want to get a hold of the cost increases, with regards to benefits, and really create a plan where we can pay teachers fairly, we have to address the benefits question. It just has been, it's been absent from the discussions for the last decade.
Well, if you'd like to learn more about this, you can go to the John Locke Foundation's website, find the research brief with the headline, Teacher Pay, a Look at the Last Decade. Its author is Dr. Bob Luebke. He is Senior Fellow at the Center for Effective Education. Thanks so much, Bob.
Thank you, Mitch.